This is a very high fall. Make sure you keep your arms to your chest and land on your back.
Yeah,
Here we go for immunity and reward in the form of fire. Survivors ready. Go! Courtney gives it a go. Ow, Courtney falls hard on the hands. Keep your hands to your chest.
You know, for the longest time, I thought my biggest fear in Survivor would have been leaves. There is nothing worse than getting a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to play your favorite game in the world, like Connect 4, only to have it stripped away from you due to forces outside your control, like your older brother. An unending lack of resolution, nothing but what-if scenarios playing in your head forever and ever. Doctors and nurses, my name is Peridiam, and you guys asked for it, so let's talk about it. The most robbed, medically evacuated players in Survivor. Whether it was because of their arms, shoulders, knees, or toes, or maybe all of the above, these are who I believe to be the top 5 players who maybe could have won the season that they got medically evacuated from. Or even if they were so far from the finish line it didn't matter, we're still doing well enough to have all of us feel like their game was just cut way too short. In truth, as of making this video, there are only 16 medically evacuated players throughout the history of Survivor. Hopefully that number never gets any higher. So you would think picking the top 5 would be kinda easy, right? A part of me wanted to just rank all of these players, but then I realized there's no way to rank these players on their missed potential when some of them were taken out on just like day 3. Where do you even start with that? I mean, what is there really to say? Courtney Moon was robbed. Courtney Moon for second chances 2, fans favorites 3. Where am I going with this?
She's doing fine. She's in good spirits, but her wrist is broken in a few places. It will require surgery, and she is out of the game.
I'm not so proud of myself right now, but it kind of wasn't my fault, but it was. I feel like if I'd moved my arm out a little farther, I wouldn't be in the situation that I am right now. But if my son sees something positive about me from this experience, I would love to think that he thinks I'm a strong woman, even though it was only 3 days.
Before we get to the list, a few honorable mentions, because I can only talk about the medevacs so many times in this channel. Pat Cusack, my dude, my heart goes out to you. I truly think your incident, when looking at the overall board here, may be the most unfortunate out of all of them, for whatever that's worth. Likewise to Caleb from Co-Wrong, beasting on an invincible pre-merge tribe. You may not have won the Salt and Pepper, but you did get a second chance. Who knows, maybe you'll be back for Big Brother All-Stars 2. Anyway, here are the top 5 most robbed, medically evacuated players in the history of Survivor. Number 5.
You could be a fan of the Boston Red Sox, man, but you don't want to play against the Boston Red Sox. You're going to get your ass handed to you.
Number 5 is the lovable narrator of all narrators. It's Jonathan Penner from Survivor Micronesia, fans versus favorites. Now, Jonathan won't be the first player on this list to get another shot after being medically evacuated, but I'm glad he did. He is arguably one of the most meta players in all of Survivor, and his uncanny ability to describe the narrative of a season as it's unfolding is a joy to behold. While Penner's early game in Micronesia wasn't fantastic, he was on the bottom and could have easily gone home had the swap not happened. It was in the swap that he began to really find his footing, and could have gone on a tear had his injury not occurred. He was swapped into a tribe of 8 players alongside his peppy ally Eliza, and with them they'd likely bring in Jason and Kathy, and who knows, maybe he's flipped over Alexis or Natalie. It's very possible he manages to flip some of those fans to take out either Parvati or James. Or is that fan fiction? The ill-fated challenge that sent Penner packing was the same one that gave Parvati a fat lip and had Chet, well, God, everything happened to Chet in that challenge.
Just misses the flag. Parvati and Eliza are alive. Joel trying to drag Chet, takes a hard fall. Keep moving.
I'll get my head. I don't care. I know.
Penner got cut on his knee, and the next thing you know, it's time to visit the doctor. And it wasn't long after that he was tearfully medically removed from the game. Thankfully, he got to play again in season 25 and wasn't evacuated, but instead respectfully voted out. At the very least, it was a bit of closure. Number 4. Speaking of Survivor Philippines, number 4 is the mighty giant himself, the Predator, the Chief. It's Russell Swan from Survivor Samoa. Now, similar to Penner, Russell came back in Survivor Philippines, the one season where medically evacuated players were in vogue. He actually placed horribly there, being voted out 4th in what has to be one of the most unlucky tribes ever, losing 4 straight immunities out of the gate. But it was in season 19, the original season that he was medically evacuated from, that his chances were truly robbed when he was taken out at the final 14 in the middle of a challenge. What put Russell at number 4 for me was just how much of a competent leader he proved to be in that season, at least. Unlike in the Philippines, his tribe was crushing it in the immunity challenges, and he was dubbed the leader from day 1.
Guy in the back.
Russell.
That's 4 for Russell, 3 for Shambo. Eric.
Yeah, better looking Lennox Lewis.
That's 5 for Russell, that'll do it. All right, Russell is the leader of Galoo.
All the credit went to him. He called a lot of the shots, even if his strategy was probably a little lacking. Russell pushed himself so hard, he kind of went too hard. And because of this, he collapsed in what Jeff Probst described as the most terrifying moment for him in the entire show. Russell truly appeared as if he was going to die. He was out cold, totally limp. It's honestly crazy just how bad it looks.
Russell!
Then we have to go down towards...
Whoa! Russell, you with me? No. Hold up. Everybody hold up. Medical. Hold where you are. Everybody hold where you are.
Russ, just lie down. Come on, Russ. Russ, are you with us? Lie down. Russell. Russ, talk to me. Russell, wake up, mate. Wake up. You there? Yeah. Do you remember what just happened? His heart rate was 97 when we sat him up, and now it's 68, okay?
And it dropped.
It dropped
Like
really
that.
suddenly.
I don't know where exactly Russell stood at this point in the game or where he would have headed had he not been removed, but it's very likely he goes much further than 14th place. It's also probably a lot more likely his tribe doesn't completely fall apart at the drop of an idol in the post-merge, let alone vote each other out so quickly if he was still around to count as a number. I'm not saying Russell was some sort of tour de force of strategy, but looking at the season from the big picture, there was Galoo pre-Russell and Galoo post-Russell. And then there was Galoo post-Russell Hance, and man, is the difference stark. Number 3. I'm gonna be quick with number 3. It's no surprise Survivor Philippines happened when it did, as the first 3 in my top 5 are all players who were asked to play the game again because they were medically evacuated. Yeah, number 3 is the most famous medical evacuation in Survivor's history. It's Mike Skupin, Mr. Scoops, from Survivor the Australian Outback. Yes, you're probably thinking at this point, Peridiam, what is this, the entire cast of Survivor Philippines? And you know what, here we are, watch out. Dana, she might be number 2. Oh wait, no, she technically quit. Regardless of what you think about Mr. Scoops outside the game, he was in a very good position in season 2 prior to him falling in the fire and burning much of the skin off his hands.
You okay?
Oh my God!
He's burnt pretty bad there.
Here's the water!
In the water. What happened?
Passed out in the fire. Passed out, fell in the fire.
Stay in the water.
That takes the cake for the most impossible to look at scene. Survivor became real to America in that moment. There were millions and millions of people watching, way more than there are today. No longer did we just skip around and talk about the show by the water cooler while at work. Now the show was real. And strategically speaking, Skupin was actually in a pretty great spot at the time that the incident happened. Had he not been evacuated, there's a good chance his tribe goes into the merge up 6-4 in numbers, at which point he very likely reaches at least the final 6, if not higher. I wouldn't wager that he wins that season, but hey, we have seen that scenario play out already. Number 2. Number 2 is going to be Dana from Survivor No, okay, that's... But for what it's worth, not every medical evacuation has to be about the player getting injured or sick. Number 2 is still a medical evacuation, but it might not be what you're expecting. It's when Terry Dietz in Survivor Cambodia Second Chance was evacuated from the game for medical reasons relating to his son back at home. He received word on day 13 that his son was hospitalized and that his wife and the doctor insisted he return to the country to be with them. Thankfully, his son was okay in the end, but the situation was absolutely not to be taken lightly. This to me is the most unique medical evacuation in the show's history, as it's the only one where it involved the player being evacuated for reasons outside the realm of the show.
I just got a phone call from your wife. And your son, Danny, is in the hospital. Both your wife and the doctor think that it's serious enough that you should go home to be involved.
I'm like having chills.
Hang in there. We're going to get you home.
As far as the game went, Terry wasn't in the best spot. His starting tribe Takeo was being picked off in the pre-merge, and Terry was subtly being primed for a takedown by the one Kelly Wentworth in the event their swap tribe lost. But he was still making relations with everyone around him, and given his tribe never went to tribal council, it's very likely he at least reaches the merge, if not beyond, given the dynamics going into that merge. A lot of Terry's friends from Bion were still in the game, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him perform pretty well all over again. Terry is one of the rare instances where I want him to get another shot, if only because of this medevac right here.
It was 10 years I waited for my survivor second chance. But when Jeff woke me up in the middle of the night, getting home to my family was the only thing I could think about. It turns out my son Danny needed a heart transplant, and he got that transplant, and he's doing well. And here I was thinking I was the second chance guy. Our second chance survivor is right here.
Number 1. This placement was never in doubt. It couldn't be. You don't reach the final episode of the season only to get medically evacuated and not make the number 1 spot. I'm talking about the fan with the master plan, Erik Reichenbach from Survivor Karamoan, Fans vs. Favorites 2. Erik was medically evacuated not but 3 days shy of the end of the game at the final 5 due to a serious infection in his leg that was causing him to get dizzy, lose awareness, and pass out at a moment's notice. His evacuation was a major shock to everyone. He walked out of the final 6 tribal council right after his number 1 ally, Brenda, was blindsided, and he felt really dizzy. Along the walk back to camp, he realized he needed help, and so down he went. The doctors came in, and the rest is kind of a blur. Even by Erik's own account, he woke up in the hospital the next day hooked to IVs, unsure who was even voted out at the previous tribal council he was entirely present for. I can't even begin to imagine what that's like. But if I had to guess, it's probably similar to when I don't get my morning cup of coffee. But no, really, Erik is known for his bad move at the final 5 of his first season, but here he was again on his returning season, again now at the final 5, and this time he's cut short for an entirely different reason. Almost bizarrely poetic, where the first time it was entirely in his hands, while the second time it was anything but. While I don't expect Erik to get a third chance, given he was quite invisible all season, probably largely because of his medevac, I still can't help but wonder what would happen to him if he ever made a third final 5. If I had to guess, I would say his number 1 ally plays an idol on him, but then an advantage gets used to cancel out that idol. And then somehow everyone else pulls out an idol, plays it, and he gets Sareed. That's my fanfiction, and I'm sticking to it. You were robbed for a third time.
I feel like I'm in prison right now. I feel like there's just so much time. It's stretched out. I feel like I'm trapped here, and it's horrible. I mean, there's nothing to be talked about. There's nothing to be said. There's nothing to be done. I'm miserable here. This is the most beautiful prison I've ever been in my life. And as I'm climbing the tree, I'm thinking, you know what? You could fall out of this tree right now and break your leg, and then you'll leave the game. No one would judge me, and no one would say, hey, you know, you tried your best. It was just an accident. But I'm trying to defeat myself at this point. Like, it's in my head. And that scares the hell out of me, because that's not what I want to do.
I just want food!
And that is going to be my top 5 most robbed medical evacuations in the history of Survivor. There are certainly a few other medevacs I didn't mention in this video that I do also think were robbed, though maybe not top 5 worthy. We got Bruce in Panama, Neil in Koh Rong, Joe in Koh Rong, James in Micronesia, several others, but overall, that is going to be the top 5. Regardless, my name is Peridiam saying thank you for watching. I hope you sorta enjoyed this video. I mean, that's kind of weird, actually, but you know what I mean. Don't forget to grab your torch on the way out, and I will see you in the next one once I totally fake an injury just to score a date with Dr. Ramona.
Mike's been dying for this since day 1.
This is the one where I have to prove myself, show my stuff. I'm a mean motor scooter and a bad go-getter, man, when it comes to one-on-one stuff.
Fighting dirty around here, Mike. You're from New York, I know.
Yeah. Someone's getting hurt, and it ain't our team. I'm gonna take him downtown to Chinatown, man. I'm waiting for this. Or I'll die trying.
Do we need to do this right this second?
Yes, we do.
Other guys are naked. If anybody's got a problem with it,
Get yourself comfortable.
pants, something like pants.
No, so gently, that's it.